If you'd like to improve your listening skills, then today's lesson will help because we're going to have you listen to a natural English conversation. So some of you have asked us that to practice your listening skills, you would like to hear a natural conversation or just hear us speaking about a topic in general. So that's what we've done today. We've chosen a topic and you guys are just going to listen to us talking about it. And you're not only going to listen to the conversation, but you're also going to see if you can try to identify some vocabulary words that I'm going to go over with you right now. These are just random words that I've taken from the conversation and I'm going to tell you the meaning. And as you're listening to the conversation, we're going to show you where they're at so that you can get a feel for how these words are used in context. So the first word that I want to talk to you about is a verb, and that is to defer. And usually you would use it that you defer to someone else, to defer to someone. And that means to delay or put off until a later time in the future. To defer to someone. The next word, and it's one that I use from time to time, and it's more slang, is just crap. If you say, something, oh, that's crap. When you say that, you mean that's just, it's ridiculous, it's absurd, it's an exaggeration, it's a falsehood, it's nonsense, it's crap. Then we have the phrasal verb tune out. So you can tune out something, or you could even tune someone out. And when you tune out, you stop listening and you stop paying attention to what's going on, and you're just off in your own mind, and you just tune out. Another great word is eavesdrop. It's a verb, so you would say to eavesdrop. And it's often followed by the preposition on, to eavesdrop on someone. And it means to listen secretly to a private conversation, or to listen secretly to a conversation that you shouldn't be listening to. You have no business listening to this conversation. You are eavesdropping. Next is an expression, rub it in. And you could rub it in, or just say, rub something in. And when you rub it in, you are drawing somebody's attention to an embarrassing fact or mistake. And you're basically highlighting this embarrassing moment when somebody doesn't want to hear it, they don't want to listen to it, and they might say, don't rub it in, or, do you have to rub it in? Stop rubbing it in. Then we have reserved, and this is an adjective, which means that if somebody is reserved, it means they're slow to reveal their emotions or opinions. It's basically saying that somebody is shy. So as you're listening to our conversation and listening to us talk about this topic, keep an eye out for these words, and again, we'll highlight them for you so that you can see how they're used in context. Let's begin. All right, so
hi.
What we want to talk about right now, what we think is the most difficult skill when it comes to learning a language. So I will defer to you first. And what do you think when you're learning another language, any language? What's the most challenging thing for you when it comes to learning another language?
I think it depends on the language, which is weird. Because for me it does. Why don't you talk? Because I don't have an answer right now. I have to think about it.
Okay. All right.
To think.
I would say for me, the most difficult language skill is, I think by far is listening, which I think is surprising because I think for many people out there, exactly. I think for many people, they're like, oh, that's the easiest. But for some reason, my listening's crap. I feel like when I was learning Spanish, or even when I was learning Korean, it's so easy for me to tune out. And actually, when I'm in a conversation or a group of people are talking and I'm focusing, okay, yes, I know what's going on, I'm listening to the conversation, and then all of a sudden I lose focus, and then I try to jump back into the conversation and start listening again. But by that point, I'm lost. I've kind of forgotten about where we are at in the conversation and what people are talking about. Maybe I need to try and focus a little more on what's happening in the conversation, but it's always been a challenge for me. I think it is, better than some of my other language skills, but at the same time I feel like my listening should be better than what it is if whether I'm learning Spanish or Korean, or right now trying to learn Romanian. Listening is always a challenge. What about you?
Well, now that I think about it, speaking, of course, I don't find listening difficult. In fact, and I think the reason I don't is because I really like listening. And this is just my personality in any language, I think. I like listening to people's stories. I like listening to eavesdrop, like if there's like a random conversation.
We're talking about speaking. Why is this speaking difficult?
So I know we're talking about speaking, but I'm trying to explain like why listening isn't hard for me, because I
You're trying to rub it in?
No. Well, I have a hard time with speaking, so I think that's worse. Plus, I think I'm a little bit more reserved as a person, so I'm not very like outgoing or anything. So I'm not very confident. So I think that's a big part of it. That's a huge part of speaking. When you speak, you have to be confident in what you say.
Yeah.
And even though I know what I'm going to say, somehow if I speak with somebody who's a native speaker, like all of these doubts come in my head, and I'm like, I'm just gonna shut up.
I think if somebody's a bit more reserved, it becomes an additional challenge to try and speak another language and go ahead and start talking without worrying about whether you're saying things correctly or not.
Right. So that's why I think speaking is harder for me. Reading, I think, is usually like, it's not as it's a little bit difficult.
Are you going to go through all the language skills right now?
Yeah, I thought we're ranking them. No, I'm just kidding. So speaking is hard.
So now we want to hear from you guys, and in the comments let us know, what language skill do you think is the most difficult? Not just with English, but really when you're learning any other language.
Yep.
Reading, writing, speaking, listening, grammar. Yeah, let us know what you think is the most difficult. If you enjoyed our conversation, hit that like button, and as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. I forgot what it's gonna say.
You're talking about listening. Listening is difficult for you.
I've already lost focus.